Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about quantum computing.
Yeah, quantum computing. It's a really fascinating topic.
It is. It is. And, we want to explore not just what it is, but like why it might be the most important tech you've never even heard of.
And maybe one of the most important things you do hear about ever. It really could be that big of a deal.
So we've got to talk about this. So
Mhm.
before we get into, rewriting the rules of reality, I love how you put that. How about just like a really quick, like, quantum 101, for those of us who are still working on dial-up.
Okay, so just the very, very basics.
Yeah, just the basics, like explain it to me like I'm 5 years old.
Okay, well, think of it this way. You know how your computer, my computer, like pretty much every computer you've ever used speaks in bits.
Like
Yeah.
ones and zeros.
Exactly. Ones and zeros. It's like a light switch. It's either on, that's a one, or off, a zero.
On or off, got it.
A quantum computer, it's working with qubits. So instead of that on-off switch, think of it more like a dimmer switch.
Okay, so it can be like kind of on.
Exactly, you got it. Imagine a coin spinning in the air. It's not heads or tails until it lands, right?
Right.
Qubits can be in that fuzzy in-between state. We call that superposition, and that's where things get really interesting because that's what gives them that power.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But this all sounds a little too good to be true. Is there a catch? There's always a catch.
Well, there's a reason people are excited and a little uneasy about all of this. And that's because when you link a bunch of these qubits up, things get kind of weird. We're talking about entanglement, where two qubits, even miles apart, can instantly affect each other.
Why, really?
Yeah. So you change one, and the other one changes instantly, no matter how far apart they are. It's like magic, but it's quantum mechanics.
Okay, so you're blowing my mind a little bit here. So we're talking about a world where today's impossible is like tomorrow's status quo.
And that's exactly what has people worried. For example, imagine a world where we can design totally new materials, things that are lighter and stronger than anything we've ever seen before.
Okay, that sounds pretty amazing.
Or how about this? Drug discovery is totally revolutionized because now we can simulate molecules at an atomic level and create personalized medicine.
Okay, you have me at personalized medicine. Sign me up.
Right. It's amazing stuff. But we've got to talk about the other side of that coin.
Yeah, I think I know what's coming next. What are the risks?
Well, for one, think about cybersecurity. That same power that we're using to break down molecules, it could also be used to break down the encryption that protects our entire digital world.
Oh, no.
Yeah. We're talking banking systems, personal data, government secrets, military communications, all of it vulnerable.
So are we talking about like needing a quantum shield? Fighting fire with fire?
You're on the right track. Experts are already working really hard on what we call quantum-resistant encryption, but it's a race against time because you know somebody out there is thinking about how to use this for bad.
Right, of course. And it's not just, rogue actors or cybersecurity. We're talking about the potential to rewrite the rules of the entire global economy. I mean, are we talking like a whole new world order, right? Like certain countries or corporations getting their hands on this first. It's like the space race, but the stakes are like a million times higher.
Yeah, it's a whole new world order, and we're writing the rules for it right now. And one of the biggest things we need to be thinking about is disruption.
Disruption, okay.
Think about, like, whole industries that rely on doing these really complex calculations all the time.
Okay, so like who are we talking about here?
Well, finance for sure.
Right.
Logistics, global shipping, even like weather forecasting. All that relies on massive computing power. Quantum computers could come in and just like poof, make all those systems obsolete overnight.
Okay, so I'm trying to keep up here. We're talking about like the potential to cure diseases, but also the potential for like global economic chaos.
And we haven't even gotten to the really scary stuff yet.
Oh, there's more. Okay, hit me.
We need to talk about the potential for quantum computers to be weaponized.
Yeah, that's what keeps me up at night. I mean, it's not hard to imagine, right?
That's not hard at all. I mean, you could use this to develop autonomous weapon systems that are way more sophisticated than anything we have today. Or think about cyber attacks that could cripple entire nations, shutting down power grids, communication systems, you name it.
Okay, I need to take a breath. This is starting to sound a little too much like a dystopian sci-fi movie. So is there any hope here? Or are we just like plummeting headfirst into a future we can't control?
There's always hope. And that's really what this comes down to. We're not just along for the ride here, you know. We're the ones building this technology, which means we have a responsibility to steer it in the right direction.
Okay, so what does that look like? How do we make sure that this power, this incredible power that we're talking about, is used for good?
Well, it has to start with conversations like this one.
Okay, so more open dialogue.
We need researchers, policymakers, and just regular people, frankly, having these sometimes difficult conversations. We also need to be thinking about ethical frameworks for how we develop and use this technology, kind of like we're already starting to do with artificial intelligence.
So it's almost like we're writing the instruction manual as we go along here. But are there any examples of people actually doing this? Like, are there any organizations out there already trying to bring some ethical foresight to quantum computing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are groups popping up all over the place. For example, the World Economic Forum, they've got a whole initiative focused on global cooperation and ethical guidelines.
Okay, that's good, I guess. But this feels way bigger than any one organization or any one government, right?
Yeah.
This feels like something that's going to take a global effort. It really does feel like we're at crossroads with this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, kind of a sliding doors moment.
Exactly. Like, on the one hand, we could be talking about, like, solving climate change, ending world hunger. But on the other, well, let's just say it could get a little Terminator-y pretty fast.
It's a really, really high-stakes situation, that's for sure. But the important thing to remember is that we get to decide, at least in part. We're not just powerless bystanders here. We actually have the power to shape how this all plays out.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? Like, practically speaking, how do we make sure this tech is used responsibly?
Well, it's a huge question, obviously. But think about, for example, the early days of the internet.
Okay, yeah. Wild West, nobody knew what was going on.
Exactly. No rule book. And nobody could have predicted how it would evolve all the incredible things and all the problems that came with it.
And still coming with it, right?
Totally. But the point is, over time, we figured some things out, right? We started to develop norms and regulations and ethical frameworks to at least try to guide its development. And we can do the same thing with quantum computing.
So we need to be, like, proactive, not reactive. But what does that look like, I guess? Where do we even begin?
It starts with education. The more people understand what this technology actually is and how it works, the more we can have informed conversations about it.
So knowledge is power, basically. And not just for the scientists, but for, like, everybody.
Right. Because at the end of the day, this technology, it's going to impact every single one of us, so we all deserve to be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it sounds like what we really need is a global conversation, right? Like a collective effort to make sure we don't screw this up. It's almost like we need a quantum ethic, you know?
You're reading my mind. We have to define what it looks like to use this kind of power responsibly. What are the limits? What are the lines we should never cross? And we need to be asking ourselves those questions now, not 10 years from now when it's too late.
So I guess the big takeaway here is that we're standing on the edge of something really, truly remarkable. And yeah, it's a little scary, but it's also incredibly exciting.
For sure. And the future isn't set in stone, right? We all get to play a part in writing this story, so let's make it a good one.
Well said.
Okay.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.